Thank you very much, Ceann Comhairle, for the opportunity to speak on Budget 2024. 100 years ago, in April 1923, W.T. Cosgrave presented the first ever budget statement to Dáil Éireann. The budget was introduced just as the Civil War was ending, and the government had a job on its hands to convince people both of its financial competence and the benefits of Irish statehood. Finishing his speech in this chamber, President Cosgrave said, "When ordered conditions are restored and normal life prevalent, we can safely anticipate a marked improvement in the economic condition of the country." Within a few months, a young engineer from Drogheda, Thomas McLaughlin, returned from Siemens in Berlin and started talking to the government about a hydroelectric scheme for Ireland. Despite representing 1/5 of the resources available, the government took the bold decision to fund the project at Ardnacrusha. It was the start of Ireland taking control of its own economic destiny. Today, Ireland is in full control of her own destiny. We have our problems, every country does, but we are able to shape the kind of country we want to be. In a world of 200 countries, Ireland is consistently ranked in the top 10 or 20 by almost every measure. But we can do more and can do better. This is the fourth budget of this government's term, and it is a €14 billion package in total, helping people, families, businesses and farmers with the cost of living, and setting aside billions of euro for years and generations to come. This level of investment is only possible due to the hard work of Irish people, the ingenuity of Irish business, and some good political decision-making along the way. We should not take this position for granted. Not so long ago, this House was voting through budgets that reduced, not improved, people's standard of living. At Ceann Comhairle, inflation is moderating, but the cost of living continues to rise. The bills coming in the door have not fallen, and it's still more expensive to do the weekly shop or to keep the car running than it was 2 years ago. So we're helping you and your family, putting money in your pocket with the measures for the most vulnerable and the squeezed middle. It includes a tax package that rewards work and allows you to keep more of your hard-earned money. A pensions and welfare package so that older people, carers, people on disability payments and lone parents get the help they need with rising costs. A focus on children, reducing school, college and childcare costs for families and improving access to those services. A package for business to help with higher costs, like wages and energy, to protect jobs and ensure they don't have to pass on all of the costs to the consumer. One-off measures to help households with high energy costs this winter, including the €350 energy credits. Tax credits to help struggling mortgage holders, renters and small landlords. And more investment across the board in healthcare, education and transport to further reduce costs and improve access to the services that people need. New climate actions, including a record budget for retrofitting, funding for microgeneration and the just transition, and a significant package to better resource and Garda Síochána, attract new recruits and build stronger, safer communities, and a record level of investment to drive regional and rural development to help rural Ireland to prosper. This agam gwil an costas mar tála fós ag méadú. Níl laidú tagta na bili atá ag teachtasteach agus tá sé níos costasí fós an siopa seachta nniuil a dhéanamh. I mud éid fife cahar, tá muid ag carú leat féin agus le de teilech, tá muid ag cur airgid arás de fóca chun carú leis an costas mar tála. Tá pacáiste má cánach cúnamh le costa seirbhís cosúil le cuairm leanaí agus las agus pension méide chun income din éasta bráite agus faoi bhí chumas a cosan san áireamh. Tá muid ag cur deontas nua ar fáil do gnólachí freisin chun cabhrú le leo déilá le costas níos airde agus pacáiste cánacht chun cabhrú le leo fás agus in estiacht a dhéanamh sa todhchaí. Sola rian an mujéid €100 million chun an Gaeilge cur chun cín mar teanga beo i bobal na Gaeltacht agus chun úsáid na Gaeilge a spreagú sa timpeallacht. Ceann Comhairle, when it comes to any household budget, there are always three elements to it: how much you're paid, how much you get to keep after tax, and how far the money goes. This budget makes progress on all three fronts. Yesterday, the government accepted the recommendation of the Low Pay Commission to increase the national minimum wage by €1.40 an hour to €12.70 an hour, an increase of 12.4%. That's well ahead of the projected rate of inflation of 3% next year, just like last year's increase of 7.8% in a year in which inflation averaged 5%. It's a big step towards achieving a living wage, a policy initiative that I took as Taoiseach and Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment. Around 150,000 people will benefit, and tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands more, will benefit from knock-on increases. For someone working 39 hours a week, it translates to a pay increase of €54 a week, or €2,800 per year. This is making work pay and helping those who get up early in the morning. In the coming weeks, we also hope to finalise the terms of a new public sector pay deal, which will be important for our existing public servants, and also the ability of the public service to remain an attractive place to work in what is a very tight and competitive labour market. The second element of any household budget is how much you get to keep after tax. I believe middle-income earners in Ireland pay too much tax in USC. It's simply not fair that the average full-time worker is hit with the highest rate of income tax. And it's not fair that the tax system erodes so much of any pay increase they get or money earned from overtime worked. In the past 10 years, this government and the last have shown that you can manage the public finances well while reducing income taxes, increasing public spending and growing jobs. It's not just about putting money back in people's pockets. It's also about keeping the tax system competitive when it comes to the international battle for talent and skills. So someone earning 40 or 45,000 euros today pays 3,000 less in income tax in USC than they did back in 2014. And from next January, they'll be paying even less. That is a significant saving, and it's not a one-off, it's recurring, it happens every year. Budget 2024 gives working people more than €1,000 back through USC and income tax cuts, new tax credits and other measures such as energy credits. We'll continue to campaign for income tax and USC cuts in the years ahead, provided we can afford to do it. The third element of any household budget is how far your money goes. We need to reduce the cost and broaden the scope of services available in Ireland. And the budget is a combination of recurring and one-off measures to help. I'm not going to list them all, but there are some very important ones, such as a 25% reduction in childcare costs from September, thus meeting our commitment to reduce the cost of childcare for families by 50% over the course of this government. Free school books for junior cycle students in post-primary schools, the extension of hot school meals to 900 more primary schools, a €1,000 reduction in the student contribution fee, and a €1,000 increase in the postgraduate tuition fee contribution. Ceann Comhairle, when I became Taoiseach again last December, I outlined my desire to make Ireland the best country in which to be a child and to reduce child poverty. That's something we can do. The minimum wage and knock-on increases will help, as will the abolition of fees for low-income part-time students like many lone parents and people with disabilities. It's important to put on the record over the past decade that Ireland has made significant progress in reducing child poverty and promoting child well-being. Almost 50,000 fewer children are living in consistent poverty than was the case 10 years ago. And that's notwithstanding a rising population. But after years of progress, last year poverty rates increased for the first time in a long time due to the sharp increase in the cost of living. Our objective in this budget is to restore the purchasing power of people's incomes and to push poverty rates down back in the right direction. By focusing resources on those early years, we can empower people to make the most of that start through education, equal opportunities and good jobs to work towards a better future. It's not just about social welfare payments, though they are important. The new Child Poverty and Wellbeing Programme Office in the Department of the Taoiseach, has published an initial plan identifying policy priorities for acceleration and investment in the years ahead, actions that will make a difference in terms of income, services and employment. We've already introduced free school books for primary schools, free GP care for all children under 8, and extended the Hot School Meals programme. We've also abolished inpatient hospital charges, reduced the cost of school transport and public transport for young people. Budget 2024 builds on that, with a €12 weekly increase in all social welfare payments, a double month of child benefit, a €100 lump sum for families receiving an increase for a qualified child on top of that, a €400 lump sum for families in receipt of the working family payment, an extension of hot school meals to hundreds of more primary schools, a €100 increase in the home care and single person child care tax credit, and a €200 increase in the incapacitated child tax credit. So in simple terms, for example, think of a lone parent with 2 kids struggling to get by on social welfare. That family will receive €480 in bonus payments before Christmas, a Christmas bonus, a further bonus in January, and then an extra €20 a week, every week, when you take into account the adult increase and the increase for 2 qualified children. So I want to thank Minister Heather Humphreys for her work in putting together this year's welfare package. In the round, some families could benefit by several €1,000s. To give another example, somebody renting who's got 1 child, is earning the minimum wage, will benefit from a €2,800 increase in pay, €450 in energy credits, €750 in a rent tax credit, and €140 extra in child benefit payments, and possibly a range of other measures. That's more than €4,000 back into the pocket of that family, not a small sum. As is always the case on budget day and after budget day, we'll hear claims and counterclaims, and people will focus on one aspect of the budget and say it's not enough, or say that something else was left out. I understand that's how criticism works on budget day. But while people are entitled to their own opinions, they're not entitled to their own facts. And one of the differences in the budget this year is a publication that was released yesterday, Budget 2024, Beyond GDP, a Quality of Life Assessment. And this is all about the whole process of equality budgeting. And I think it is significant to draw the House's attention to page 12 for anyone interested in the facts as to how this budget impacts on different people. So this shows the impact of the budget on the different deciles. Those who benefit the most are in the poorest 10% of the population, and those who benefit the least are in the richest 10% of the population. When you break it down by household, the type of household that benefits the most is a household headed by a lone parent. And these are the facts. Anything else is opinion. Ceann Comhairle, I believe that improved pay terms and conditions can go hand in hand with jobs growth. But I'm also very conscious of the need to help businesses as these reforms are phased in. Along with higher energy bills, it's a lot to deal with, and we want to make sure that those added costs are not all passed on to the consumer. So I was very keen to support Minister Coveney's push for a new grant, the Increased Cost of Business Scheme, or ICOBS. It'll help about 130,000 small and medium-sized businesses with grants worth up to €20,000. We expect it to be paid in the new year. There's also a very good tax package for business that will help them grow into the future. It includes new capital gains tax relief for angel investors in innovative startups, improvements to the Employment Investment Incentive Scheme, an enhanced R&D tax credit, and an increase in the VAT registration threshold for services and goods for very small businesses. So you can rely on us to back business and jobs to ensure a strong economy. Ceann Comhairle, we have to step up our level of ambition when it comes to public infrastructure to keep pace with a rapidly growing population and economy. 2024 will be another record year for public capital investment. To put it into perspective, we're now investing 4 times as much in public infrastructure every year than we did 10 years ago. But extra funding alone is not enough. We have to get better at completing projects on time and on budget. Far too many important capital projects are taking far too long including schools, housing, hospitals, Garda stations and public transport, among others. Housing for All is working, and much like Project Ireland 2040, we're focusing on implementation, making sure the initiatives we've committed to are implemented quickly and effectively. Next year, we're making additional funding available for homeless services, for our social housing building programme, and for some of the vital schemes in place to help people to buy their own home. The capital budget for housing will be a record €5.1 billion in 2024. The difficulty will be our capacity to spend it, but I believe we will. We built 30,000 homes last year in Ireland. We want to build more this year and then more again in 2025. And I'm increasingly confident that we will exceed our target for this year and next. We're extending the Help to Buy scheme until the end of 2025 and extending its eligibility criteria to apply to those availing of the Local Authority Affordable Purchase Scheme. And we'll also examine extending it to first home as well. The rent tax credit is a simple and direct way to put money back in renters' pockets. It's straightforward to apply for it, so I'd encourage anyone who's not done so to apply as soon as possible, but you do have 3 years in which to do so. In 2024, it'll be €750 for an individual, €1,500 for a couple, and €2,250 for 3 people sharing. It is per renter, not per property. For every renter, there has to be a landlord, and therefore we need landlords. The budget introduces some tax concessions designed to keep them in the market for longer. Ceann Comhairle, recent severe weather events highlight the need to intensify our efforts to stop global warming. We must be the generation that turns the tide on climate change and biodiversity loss. And as I've always said, we should not see climate action as an obligation or a burden. We should embrace it as an economic and social opportunity. It's about warmer homes, cleaner air, less time commuting, more remote and home working, more time with family, more jobs, and greater regional development. Budget 2024 provides record funding to ramp up our retrofitting programme and ensure we have enough highly skilled people to meet the demand. Not only is retrofitting the right thing to do from a climate point of view, it'll also mean lower energy bills and warmer and more comfortable homes for thousands of families, including some of the poorest, who will receive a 100% grant to retrofit their home. I want Ireland to be energy independent by harnessing our untapped renewable energy resources. This is our moonshot for the 21st century, recalling once again Ardna Crusha and the spirit of the Free State, our Shannon Scheme 2.0. Budget 2024 also enables the government to continue our work in building stronger and safer communities. It provides for the recruitment of up to 1,000 trainee Gardaí in 2024 and 250 Garda staff specialising in ICT and other administrative functions. An increase in the Garda training allowance, which will apply immediately, and also additional investment in fighting the epidemic of domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. We're reinforcing this level of record investment with tougher laws being led by Minister McEntee and making provision for longer sentences for serious crimes against individuals. Rural Ireland is at the heart of this government's work programme. So much of this budget, from extra funding in capital infrastructure to extra funding for business, is about sustaining our rural communities. We're continuing the 20% transport fare reductions until the end of next year. We're increasing funding for the local improvement scheme, improving access to rural homes, farms and outdoor amenities. And we're also increasing funding for rural transport local link services, which are proving extremely popular. The National Broadband Plan will also be fully funded. Over 700 million is being made available for farmers participating in agri-environmental actions, for example acres, ANCs, forestry, organic farming and other schemes. On the tax side, we're improving several reliefs designed to help with farm succession. Accelerated capital allowances for farm safety equipment are also included, and this is an area which Minister Hayden has prioritised. We should not forget that Ireland only became a wealthy country relatively recently. Other wealthy countries have had a lead on us of several decades when it comes to infrastructure. Some of our neighbours started their metro systems in the 19th century. We're only going to start ours in the next few years. So we need to get better at executing big capital projects. With this in mind, we're establishing two funds for the Future Ireland Fund and the Infrastructure, Climate and Nature Fund. They're designed to achieve long-term benefits, avoid a stop-start approach to investment, and provide additional capital for climate action and nature restoration. It'll mean that we'll be able to continue to invest in vital infrastructure and avoid cutbacks in the future if the economy takes a downturn. Ceann Comhairle, I remember when I was first appointed to government 12 years ago, and the first thing I was asked to do in my first budget was to take €400 million out of the budget for the Department of Transport, Tourism and Sport. I never want anyone, no matter what party, to have to make those kinds of decisions again, to have to increase income taxes, or cut welfare payments, or cut public pay, or reduce public investment. And that's what the establishment of these funds is all about. Before I finish, I'd like to take a moment to comment on the proposals coming from the other side of the House. We know the drill at this stage. Opposition parties put together a long list of ways to spend the money available. Long before we publish the budget, they say we've made the wrong choices. And then, of course, the package doesn't go far enough. We also know that they will never say we've spent too much. The idea of responsible public finances is a concern exclusively to this side of the House. But there are a few surprises from the opposition this year. Sinn Féin proposes no less than 19 separate tax increases. Sinn Féin is a seriously high-tax party. Tax increases amounting to almost €3 billion, while the economy is still grappling with a cost of living crisis. Business is hardest hit in their tax plans, but also retirement savings too, and not just for the wealthy. Sinn Féin would leave income tax bands unchanged, resulting in income tax rises by stealth, especially for middle-income earners, more and more of whom would pay the 40% tax rate every year. And buried once again at the back of their alternative budget is a massive €330 million cut in the level of tax relief on pension contributions. Sinn Féin has done this before to make their figures add up, without explaining what it would mean in practice and for whom. We're left to guess, but almost certainly it means that ordinary private sector workers and very many public servants would lose out by thousands of euros every year, creating the wrong incentives to save for retirement. They should be pressed to explain this policy. A common theme running through Sinn Féin's policies is a failure to plan for the long term. This extends from pensions to enterprise to climate. Where is the party's enterprise policy? Where is the package to help businesses deal with increased costs? Sinn Féin pays lip service to the concept of climate action, but ducks all of the hard decisions. It would go against the advice of the Climate Change Advisory Council, the Joint Oireachtas Committee on Climate Action, and Nobel Prize-winning climate scientists by refusing to outline a trajectory for carbon tax. In fact, they even want to suspend it. Sinn Féin is definitely Ireland's climate sceptic party. Ceann Comhairle, Sinn Féin opposed us joining the European Union and the single market, opposed EU citizenship and opposed the euro, opposed ratification of major EU free trade agreements and boasts that it has done so. It opposed our low corporate tax rate, which helped secure so many jobs and so much investment for Ireland. Sinn Féin advocated and believed that Irish unification could be achieved by force. Sinn Féin wanted to burn the bondholders and reject financial help from the IMF and the ECB after the financial crash. Sinn Féin even flirted with zero COVID back in 2020. So for 30 years, Ceann Comhairle, Sinn Féin got all the big calls wrong, and it will do so again. The next big threat might not be an external one, but rather an internal one, taking the form of a radical change to our long-standing and successful economic and foreign policies. This is not the change we need. It will be change for the worse. Steady change, safe change is better for Ireland. Ceann Comhairle, I'm conscious that we are well into our second year of war in Europe, and there are so many other pressing issues around the globe while we talk about our budget. The events in the Middle East over the last week are of serious concern. The loss of life is appalling, and its impact on people going about their daily lives. We condemn attacks on civilians unequivocally, no matter who perpetrates them. A few years ago, I launched the most ambitious expansion of Ireland's international presence ever undertaken, Global Ireland 2025, with the aim of doubling our impact across the globe. We've seen how effective we can be as a small country, working through international fora and providing humanitarian assistance to some of the poorest countries in the world. Look at what was achieved during our time on the UN Security Council, and look at the work that our peacekeepers do. So in this budget, we're increasing funding to Irish aid by 60 million, reaching record highs. Total official development assistance from government will amount to €2 billion. In doing so, we're tackling the root causes of conflict, malnutrition, climate change, and irregular migration, and that is a good use of public funds. Ceann Comhairle, I commend the budget to the House. Thank you very much.